Hey, what up? This is Quinn from the Road to 2500 series, and today we're going to get into this endgame puzzle where we're looking to potentially checkmate the enemy king in order to counter the massive amounts of material that he has against us. So we only have two pawns, and our opponent has six pawns, and he's got two rooks for the queen. So he's up a total of 5 points of material here, and he's got a pawn that's ready to promote. He can support it with his rook. He's got two attackers, and we only have two defenders, and it's not looking super good for us in terms of this pass pawn. So we have to concentrate on his king right now, which is very restricted by both our king and our queen. It's unable to move. And he just chose to run to h5 to dodge our check on h4. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. He just chose to run to h5 instead of running to h3. So we have to figure out what's wrong with this move and see if we could possibly deliver a checkmate on our opponent. So one idea that I have is to move the king to f6. If he goes rook to g8, then that stops the threat of mate on g5. And we have to look for something else potentially. Giving a check on h5 would just allow him to, f5, sorry, would allow him to run to h4 with his king. And that would allow his king to go back to the position that it was already in before we started the puzzle and basically just reset things. So we don't want to do that. King f6, after rook to g1, we only have one viable check in this position, and that is queen to f5 check. And that allows his king to run away. So we don't want to do that. Another idea we have is to check on h2, but that would allow his king to run to g5. And then after queen to h6 check, he can go to f5. And then after queen to f6 check, he runs to e4. And it looks like he's pretty safe heading into the center of the board. Another idea from the beginning is we go queen to h6 check. He runs to, well, he can't move like a knight. He runs to g4. And after this move, I don't see how our checks can further restrict him. He looks like he's kind of getting away down the h file here. Unless our plan is just to give a perpetual check, in which case we could just go queen to f5, king to h4, and then just keep checking him this way. That is a possibility. We should maybe keep that in mind, but it doesn't answer the question of why king to h5 specifically was a mistake. If it was a mistake, maybe king to h3 would have led to the same difference. And we should explore that option if we do determine that there are no moves that can save us in this position from a loss other than giving a perpetual check. So looking a little bit deeper here, let's calculate until the forcing moves absolutely end in this variation. So king to f6, the benefit of king to f6 that I like is that it gets our king out of a check by our opponent. Rook g1 doesn't come with a check anymore, so that gives us more room to maneuver. If we go king to f6 and he goes rook g1, let's say we go queen to h2 check in that case. Our king is cutting off this g4 square from his king, so he can go king to g4. And in fact, that would be his only move in that position. And then from king to g4, do we have anything that can finish him off? We have h5 check, and h5 check looks like very deadly. We have these squares cut off by our queen, this square is cut off, this square is cut off, this square also cut off by our queen, and this square is cut off by our king. That looks like checkmate. So, and the h pawn is supported by our queen, which is now on h2. One of the lessons that we internalized from the previous video, we have to make sure that we're visualizing correctly and putting pieces where they end up after they've been moved going forward in that variation. So king to f6. If he goes rook g1, our plan is queen to h2 check, and then king to g4 only move, h5 checkmate. So does he have anything other than rook g1 check? Well, we immediately have the threat of queen to g5 checkmate on our opponent, and he has to somehow stop that threat. He can't move his king anywhere, so he has to defend the g5 square. And how else is he going to defend it other than by this rook? If he pushes this pawn or does something foolish like that, queen g5 is just checkmate immediately. So let's actually go ahead and commit to this move, king to f6. So he does go rook to g1. And as we planned, and let's just check it over one more time, queen to h2 check. King can't go here, 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 or here. King g4 is the only move. And then h5 check. King can't go to the h file, can't go to here or here. He's in check from the h pawn, and then he can't go to here or here either. So that looks like a checkmate to me. Let's go there, and then h5 is checkmate. Quick and easy puzzle. And today I want to talk to you about mastering an activity by going one level deeper. So if you want to be able to do something, you should do the thing that pushes you one step beyond that thing. So one simple example is throwing a football. If you want to throw a football 50 yards consistently, let's say, you got to be able to throw the ball 70 yards. If you want to calculate 2 moves ahead in chess, you have to be comfortable calculating 3 moves ahead or even 4 moves ahead. If you want to know what a serotonin receptor is, you have to learn about all sorts of neurotransmitters and signaling transduction pathways. You have to know about how receptors are activated by their ligands. You have to know about the export of neurotransmitters from vesicles and the postsynaptic terminal. You have to know about how action potentials fire. And after you learn all of that neuroscience, then you can know what a serotonin receptor is, and you can regurgitate that quickly on a test. This is the best way to learn, in my opinion. The best way to learn is not to cram. It's to absorb knowledge, and it's even better if you can do it with your unconscious or your subconscious brain. And then what you wanted to accomplish initially will come to you very naturally. It'll be baked into your intuition. It'll have sunken in to that level of your unconscious, your intuitive mind. So people who are able to do that are able to perform at very, very high levels. And what we want to do in this series is show you how to do that in chess, because chess is this model system, right? It's a game that's solved to a large extent by computers, where we can know the best move to make in many, many different positions that we encounter on our daily basis of playing chess. And it's a very simple game to be able to look at and analyze once you know what the right moves are. And we also have all of these objective ways to measure if you've improved in chess, by your rating score, by your accuracy of moves compared to the computer's moves. And that gives you an estimated ELO too. Chess.com has that feature now. So chess is this game where you can measure yourself, and you can measure these different techniques of improving yourself to see if they're actually working. And then if you see that it's working, then you can extrapolate it and apply it to other areas of your life. And chess is both a sport and a science. So it doesn't matter if you're trying to learn something very athletic, very motor skills related, or if you're trying to learn something that's in the classroom, chess can help you out with both of those things. So in chess, we want to learn theory. We want to learn opening theory. There's middle game theory as well. There's tons of endgame strategy and endgame theory. We want to learn the theory at a level where we can quickly fire off the moves as they occur to us in the game, because we've taken it one level deeper. That's my main takeaway that I want you to come away with from this video, is that when you go that one level deeper, you will be able to truly absorb the information. And when you encounter a position that's relatively simple compared to what you've learned, then you can fire off those moves quickly, even in a bullet game or a blitz game. It's very well known that your bullet performance tracks with your classical performance, right? So if you want to get better at bullet and be able to play those quick, intuitive moves, you have to work first on slow thinking and getting better at longer time controls. And then when you face simpler positions in bullet, the solution just comes to you very quickly. And typically, you can play in bullet at about a 400 point deficit to your classical move. So if you can play at a level of, let's say, 1300 in classical chess, then you can play like a 900 in bullet chess. And as your classical rating goes up, your bullet rating is kind of tethered to that. It will also go up. Obviously, playing like a 900 in bullet chess will give you a higher rating than 900, but let's not get too clogged up over the details. This puzzle was very simple to solve because we've gone over so many other puzzles where we've had to calculate many different variations. And that comes back to my point about variation depth. So when you calculate, the deeper that you go, the more variations you have to consider. And in a typical puzzle, you have to consider maybe 4 or 5 moves, 4 or 5 potential moves per move that passes in the position, how many ply you're looking forward. So there's the move that you're going to make in the first ply, and then there's the opponent's response in the next ply, and then your move responding to his response in the next ply. And if each of these has, let's say, 5 possibilities, that's 5 times 5 times 5 is 125 possibilities. In checkmate puzzles, because we're giving a lot of forcing moves, the number of possibilities goes down. So after we made king f6, we only looked at 2 possibilities. It was either rook g1 or some other move. If it was some other move, queen g5 check would be an immediate checkmate, and rook g1 would stop that checkmate for now, but it would allow us to play queen h2 check and continue the mating attack. So in checkmate puzzles, we only have to consider maybe 2 moves or 3 moves per ply. And in a puzzle like this, there was, let's count the number of ply, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we consider 2 moves per ply, and there's 5 ply, then there's 2 raised to the power of 5. That's 32 variations we have to consider, compared to 125 variations if there were 5 moves per ply, and just thinking 3 ply ahead. So checkmate puzzles are like this simplified model system of a model system that is chess, kind of like a dream within a dream of chess. I am very wary of saying inception because inception is not something within something else. Inception means to plant something within something else. It's just been popularized, that application of the application of the word has been popularized, but it's not actually correct. Not to be overly being a stickler on something. In fact, English isn't even my first language. I am the master of misapplying words, especially when I'm learning a language from scratch, like I did when I was 7 years old when I first learned English. Actually, funny story, the first English word that I ever said was apple. I was in China at the time, and I had just been told that I would be moving to America. So I started just randomly making a bunch of sounds and trying to guess a word that was English. And then I randomly made the 2 syllables app and pull come together. And that was my first word. And I'm a great fan of Steve Jobs. I love Apple products. So I think it was kind of this fortuitous moment that I had early on in my life. It was interesting. It wasn't, most people's first words are like mom or dad. I'm sure that's what my first words were in Chinese, but my English first word was apple. So anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video as well as the solve that we made in the video. I hope you enjoyed the rant that I went on afterwards about solving things at one level deeper to help you understand a certain concept, and I hope you can apply that in the classroom or in chess. And come back tomorrow for another live puzzle solve video.